The world has descended at Davos for the World Economic Forum. Tariffs, trade, Trump. Those are supposed to be the big T's that we were tracking, that the world was tracking as well. But one of the world's leading economists feels not tariffs, but pollution is an issue largely ignored and should be put into focus. During global events, pollution should be talked about more significantly than anything else. Now, all of this unfolded at a roundtable interaction moderated by India Today's Executive Editor-Chief Kalipuri. Former IMF Chief Economist Gita Gopinath bared the threat of air pollution, especially for India. She said that pollution can derail India's growth story, impose a heavy cost on both human life and public finances, and also discourage foreign investors looking for a more sustainable market. Her message is striking. Gita Gopinath argues that pollution today impacts India's economy more than tariffs imposed by Donald Trump. Let that sink in. She calls for a problem to be addressed at war footing by India, saying pollution must become a national mission for India. Listen in.
Geeta, I don't know whether you know, but there's a Rajiv Guava committee which is looking at deregulation. I want to ask you, is making another committee to get rid of bureaucratic red tape the best way forward?
Well, I assume that this is not just a committee for its own sake, but the hope is that it's going to come up with actual actionable plans.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, India needs a lot more deregulation. It is still, in terms of ease of doing business, it is still a challenging place to do business. I'd love to hear from you in terms of what challenges you face. So taking out more and more of the archaic rules that have held back businesses is absolutely critical. But then all other aspects of India will also have to continue in terms of the reforms will have to continue, the ones we talked about on land and labor. One of the areas I wanted to point out, which we usually don't talk about when you're talking about business development, is I want to talk about pollution. Mm-hmm. Pollution is a challenge in India. And if you look at the impact of pollution on the Indian economy, it is far more consequential than any impact of any tariffs that have been put on India so far. If you look at the annual cost to India's GDP of the level of pollution that you have, and it's not just the effect on economic activity, but it's also the loss in lives. I mean, the numbers are really large. Based on a World Bank study that was done, I think it was published in 22, about 1.7 million lives are lost every year in India because of pollution. That's 18% of the deaths in India. I think even from any international investor's perspective who's thinking of coming in and putting up a shop in India, if you have to live there and you have the environment is not of the kind that you feel that, okay, this is going to be consequential for your health, it holds you back. And obviously, not to say about all the Indians that are living in this kind of pollution. So addressing that on a war footing is critical. I mean, this has to be a mission, a top mission for India.
Be very careful when you hear that, right? The question was not about pollution. The question was not even about health. The question was on business. And the response was that it can't be fixed till the time you fix your pollution. That's how the world at the moment is looking at India. And what Gita Gopinath has said is backed by data. Let's look at that. The World Bank study paints an equally grim picture that the one she pointed out. India loses about 1.7 million lives every year to pollution, accounting to 18% of all deaths in the country. According to the 2025 Lancet report, 1.72 million people, Indians, have died in 2022 due to air pollution. The economic loss from polluted air stood at a staggering $339.4 billion, nearly 9.5% of India's GDP, wiped out by pollution-linked deaths. That message is unsinkable, and now the world is talking about it. Pollution is not just killing people, it's killing productivity, confidence, and even economic momentum. I took that question to one person who understands all of this very well. This is the editor-in-chief of Lancet, one of the world's most prestigious and oldest peer-reviewed medical journal. This is Richard Horton when asked about pollution. At Davos recently, where the world leaders, political and otherwise, met, there was a panel that was hosted by our chairman, actually. And on that, we were discussing what's going right or wrong with India. In that, Gita Gopinath went on to say that the biggest issue with India right now is not US tariffs, it's actually air pollution. I want to understand from you, why do you think the government has not, A, recognized the problem, not taken it at war footing, or even has a plan? What's wrong?
It can be done, but as you say, it requires government to recognise that this is causing a problem for the health of the population. Now,
What is the health cost of air pollution?
well, the health cost is, so around 1.6 million people are dying in India because of what's called particulate matter, outdoor pollution. Every single one of those deaths is preventable. So I would say, if I was a citizen of this country, why is my government happy to have 1.5 million citizens dying every year of preventable causes? That is not acceptable. No government should be happy with that. The public needs to say enough is enough. Why aren't they asking more questions of their politicians? Why are they not saying, this is not acceptable. We insist that, and if you don't do it, we're going to vote you out and vote somebody else in. I would just plead on my knees, don't let your politicians off the hook. They're there to represent you, us. They're being paid to represent us. Think about your children. Think about their futures. Make sure that they deliver for them.